Finally, a lift for gold and why a metal used in semiconductors had a big week. You're listening to Kitco Roundtable. No Paul Harris, but we have a guest. Charles FitzRoy is CEO of Bradda Head Lithium. Welcome to Kitco, Charles.
Hi, good to see you.
What is Bradda Head focused on, Charles?
Bradda Head is focused on lithium exploration in the US. We have a selection of projects across the lithium space. We have brine projects, clay projects, and also pegmatite projects in Arizona and Nevada. And Bradda is really focusing on its projects in Arizona, which is its flagship pegmatite project and its flagship clay asset. And that's really what this year is happening with Bradda. We've got a strong drill program ongoing at our clay assets now, which we expect will likely lead to us having a resource bigger than 1 million tons towards the end of this year. And then we're about to kick off on our second program at our pegmatites very shortly. We finished our first program earlier this year, and we've got an exciting second program about to kick off. So lots for Bradda Head this year.
There's always lots to talk about in the lithium space. We'll have a conversation later in the podcast, Charles. But first, macro. The big data point was the U.S. job numbers today. The gold market is moving higher as momentum in the U.S. labor market appears to be weakening with fewer jobs than expected created last month. The U.S. non-farm payrolls rose less than expected, 209,000 jobs created versus 224,000 expected. Gold rallied, last checked, trading at the 1930 level. What was good for gold was also good for copper. COMEX copper futures were up 1% on the week to $3.79. The metal spent the week down on worries about the global economy and soft manufacturing numbers out of China. Two more obscure metals had a big week, but for different reasons. China announced export restrictions to take effect from August 1st on gallium and germanium products, metals used in computer chips and other products, citing national security interests. That, according to reporting from Reuters. China produces around 60% of the world's germanium and over 90% of the world's gallium. Belgian company Umicore said it is confident that its portfolio is sufficiently robust to maintain supplies to customers, and that according to Reuters. One more piece of metal news. Goldman Sachs on Thursday said that the West may need $25 billion in investment to match China's supply of rare earths, as export curbs by Beijing on minor metals fuel fears that the rare earth could be next. Up next, mining news, but first our sponsor. Snowline Gold, ticker SGD on the TSX Venture and the SNWGF on the OTCQB is making waves with their focus on the district scale greenfield gold discoveries in Canada's Yukon. With 3,300,000 hectare land package and an exceptional leadership team, they're working to unlock Canada's newest gold discovery. Snowline's 2023 exploration program is in full swing and making headlines with their industry-leading drill results. Their first hole of the season were in 1.9 grams per ton, over 418 meters at the Valley Discovery, with plenty more results and exploration to come. Stay tuned on Snowline Gold's exciting exploration program. Visit snowlinegold.com, ticker SGD on the TSX Venture. Back to mining news and sticking where we left off with rare earths, automaker Stellantis and critical metals project developer Niocor said this week that it had signed a rare earth offtake term sheet. Two more mining stories. A consortium involving commodity trader Trafigura will invest more $550 million in a railway project connecting the Angola port of Lobito to Kolwezi, a mining town in the heart of the Democratic Republic of Congo's copper belt. And finally, Artemis Gold received its Fishery Act's authorization for the development of the Blackwater mine in British Columbia, Canada. Chairman and CEO Stephen Dean said that Blackwater will be one of BC's largest gold mines. Phase 1 construction and first pour is scheduled for the second half of 2024. Charles, I'd like to bring you back. You have a variety of projects in the US. How do you find these lithium projects?
Well, these projects were staked back in 2016. We had a JV with a group out of Australia called Zenith, and we did a search across the US to try and find these projects. We used a variety of methods, obviously good old on-the-ground exploration. But since we've staked them, we've actually increased our landholding quite dramatically in a lot of areas. We've used remote sensing, geophysics. We've obviously extended them from drill programs. So initial staking was mainly done on the ground. You need to do that with geology, but the development of these projects is really where we're doing now. And we've just finished our first drill program in our pegmatites earlier this year. And that's helped us really firm up our position there. And the clays, again, we can use geophysical techniques, but it's really all about just on the ground work and drilling and understanding where these deposits go. But we have now increased our land holding. We've got about 23 square kilometers of pegmatites in Arizona, 46 square kilometers of clays in Arizona, and then we've got about 25 square kilometers of brines up in Nevada. So a really large land package.
Now, Charles, does Bradda Head have a geographic focus?
Yeah, we are really focused on the US. That's where we are targeting our resource growth and our projects. We've got a brine projects up in Nevada and then clays and pegmatites down in Arizona. Obviously, everyone's very familiar with Lithium Americas, American Lithium up in Nevada, but we've got a very strong clay project in Arizona. It's just next door to Freeport's Baghdad copper mine. So it's a mining-friendly jurisdiction, 17 square kilometer project. We've got a 370,000 ton LCE resource on it. So we think we've got the largest publicly announced resource in Arizona right now. And we're doing a drill program which we believe will lead us to getting a resource over 1 million tons this year. And that's what we're targeting at our clay project as part of the wider program there, because we've got an exploration target of up to 6 million tons there. So very exciting there. And now our pegmatite district is what we're excited about this year. We finished our first drill program earlier this year, and we're about to kick off a 10,000 meter program shortly, hopefully this month. And we're pushing towards a resource delineation as soon as we can. And the first program was very encouraging. We did about 7,000 meters, and we got 60% of the holes we hit mineralization. Best hole was 32 meters at 1.6% Li2O in the top 25 meters. So really encouraging. And now we're building upon that. And we're about to kick off very shortly in Arizona.
Charles, help me out. So those different projects, they kind of have the lithium trapped in various quite different types of mineralization, correct? And is that somewhat a challenge?
The beauty of our Basin project and our San Domingo pegmatite district is they're located quite close to Wickenburg, which is our centre of operations. We've got a small team there. So we can really do everything at once there. And they're both mining projects. So whilst one's clay, one's pegmatites, they have a lot of overlaps. But yeah, they are different styles of mineralization. With the clays, we can obviously drill wider because of the sedimentary layers. But with the pegmatites, it's a different structure, different way of approaching things, and it's much harder, I suppose, to try and really understand what's going on there. And that's what we're doing now. And that's this first program. We've built upon that. We've done structural mapping, soil geochemistry, geophysics, and all that's built to this next priority targets, because the area was mined back in the 40s and 50s on a very small scale for spodumene. I think there's quite a few named pegmatites on our claim blocks. That's what we staked what we did. And it was about 750 tons at about 2.75% LO2O was mined back in the 40s and 50s for defense industry. So we know we've got an area where there's proven spodumene, and that's why we're so excited about our next program about to kick off shortly.
Talking about the clay project, do you have more information on the mineralization and possible processing?
Yeah, so we are in the stage of resource expansion, and we are doing work in the background. We've done some initial network showing that we can extract 98% of the lithium into leach, so it's very exciting. And we're moving on to the second phase of that now, and that's what we're pushing towards at the same time. But for us, the key thing is getting a decent resource. We've only drilled on 1.4 square kilometers of the 17, and this next program is really going to help us get a sizable resource, which means we can kick off our PEA, and that's what we're pushing towards for next year.
You talked about that it is a challenging market for raising money. Do you have any comparisons, though, actually raising money in the lithium space as opposed to the broader mining sector? It seems like there's offtakes here, offtakes there, always being reported on in the space.
Yes, there's definitely an excitement in lithium. And I think with lithium, you have probably a slightly more wider group of investors over, pure sort of classic metal investments. We did a raise last year, luckily, so we've actually got quite a decent amount of funding to be able to do the work we need to do. As I mentioned earlier, we're likely going to get our second royalty payment this year. So we're in a pretty good way. And we are like a lot of small miners, though. We're conserving costs. We're trying to spend as little as possible to get through this time, because it is a tough market right now. But we need to get a technical study in place or slightly further down the line before we can have discussions on off-takers. And that's something which we are having at the current moment. But to have that real sort of off-take agreed upon, we need a bit more technical study from our point of view. And that's what we're pushing towards. Clays, we're going to kick off a PA as soon as we can. And the pegmatites, again, we're trying to get a resource as soon as we can so we can start technical studies. And that's what this year is all about. And we are moving as fast as we can.
Can you talk about the communities where you work? There has been other lithium miners or lithium developers in the Americas, and they have run into legal challenges.
Yeah. Well, so far we haven't touched wood. We've had no problems so far, but we've had a very strong ESG outreach. Early on, I joined the company back in early 21, listed it back in 21 on AIM, and then we listed on TSXV just gone in November. And we've had an ESG officer from the start, pretty much, who's been phenomenal at engaging with our local stakeholders and tribes in the area to make sure they're aware of what we're up to. And that's the key thing. We're making sure they understand what we're up to, so they can monitor us, and if they want to come and see our drills, we're happy for them to come and see them. That's not a problem. And we've also got a community website which enables us to let our stakeholders and tribes in the area know what we're up to and gives them a way to feed back to us. So there's a hotline and there's a way for them to voice any concerns they have.
Now, unfortunately, we missed talking to each other at the Fast Market Show down in Henderson, Nevada, about 2 weeks ago. But I was talking to Gerard O'Donovan. He's kind of in, how would you say, a less warmer area. He's advancing something up in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and that's with his battery age minerals. He was talking a lot about North America's advantage due to the supply chain.
Well, I suppose that's one thing now which we are really excited about. There's a lot going on in North America, especially the US. Tesla have recently broken ground at their spodumene conversion facility in Texas. And there's a lot of people building facilities. So that, there's obviously, they expect this supply to come. And that's where Bradda fits in. We're located in Arizona and Nevada, and we're trying to be part of the US lithium battery supply chain. And that's the key thing for us, trying to develop a US battery supply chain which does not need external lithium. And again, naturally, because of that, you will have lithium that is a low carbon footprint than currently. So that's something which we're excited about. And again, with the IRA Act, there's a huge amount of funding available. And again, as I said before, these things are available for early stage companies like ours. And that's what we're pushing towards with our technical studies. Once we get these studies in place, we'll be able to apply for funding for these sort of grants.
Talk about that low carbon footprint. Is there something, what's your plans in terms of developing or looking out?
Well, it's a bit early for us to say that right now. We are still in the resource expansion phase of our basin project, and at San Domingo, we are pushing towards a resource, but we will aim to do things as low carbon as possible. We're going to be using renewable energy where we can and making sure we are participating in the area for local suppliers as much as possible.
Now, Charles, you're in the thick of it right now. You're trying to advance a project. I'm just reporting on the news, but I'm always interested in what somebody that is an operator in the space, somebody that is trying to push a project forward. What's been the most consequential news, or what's been the most consequential development in the lithium space in the past 12 months?
I think there's a lot of support around funding. Whether it be from IRA or from OEMs or major miners getting interested in the lithium space earlier on than they have been previously. I think that's really something which we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of interest from large companies wanting to understand more about our projects and come and see them. And that's, I think, for us, the most exciting thing. Recently as well, you see Imerys in France investing in British lithium. So a lot of these, larger companies are investing. And that's the key thing to enable small companies like ours to grow.
Lastly, milestones abroad over the next 12 months.
Well, a lot to come. We're drilling right now at our basin project. We're going to get an updated mineral resource out as soon as we can. We've had 2 in the last couple of years. This will be our 3rd. We expect we're going to be above 1 million tons this year. Obviously, nothing confirmed, but that's where we think things are going because things are very promising. Our grade profile and thickness of our clay is increasing to the north and northwest in our claims. So you can see this on the presentation on our website. And then San Domingo, we're kicking off drilling there shortly on a new selection of priority targets and also building upon the last drill program. The last drill program, we covered about 1% of the claim block. And this next program is enlarging from those areas and also covering high priority areas. For example, there's one area at San Domingo where we've got drill data back from the 40s and 50s showing spodumene bearing pegmatites. We don't have the assays, but for example, when we start drilling there, we know we're going to hit spodumene bearing pegmatites at our Morning Star target in the southwest of our claim block. So really exciting things from our clays and our pegmatites on the way for this year.
My name is Michael McCrae with 2 C's. That's where you can find me on Twitter. Charles, how can people get a hold of you?
We are Bradda Head Lithium on Twitter and LinkedIn. It's the best way to do it.
On behalf of Charles and myself, have a pleasant weekend.